Hello, everyone. It is important for us to understand what is the waterfall model before we even plan to go forward and try something new. So it is important for understand that what is a waterfall model. So this video is mainly about understanding the details of the waterfall model and where it can be used. So what is the waterfall model? If we see that waterfall model is a phased gate approach, wherein there are many phases like requirements, design, development, testing, verification, deployment, and maintenance. What we do in the waterfall phase is, and it has been working since so many years. So let's try to understand the details of the waterfall phase, waterfall model. In the waterfall model, it's a phased gate approach wherein we have a complete set of requirements. So we used to execute this model for executing an end-to-end product, or in fact a project. I would not even name it as a product because product development started with Agile. So for a project, what we used to do is that for the complete implementation of project, we used to gather the requirements in the requirement phase. So what used to happen there? That in the requirement phase, all the details requirement we used to gather, and this requirement phase can go up to 1 month or 1 year. So once all the requirements are collected, if you see, there is a requirement complete milestone. So once the requirement is complete, requirements gathering phase is complete, the outputs are listed on the right side of the arrow, which was use case document, business requirement specification, system requirement specification. And they can be as long as 100 pages, 200 pages document, wherein our business analysts or the requirement gathering team have collected the requirement, all the detailed requirement for the customer for the complete project, and documented that in the use case document BRS and SRS. So once that milestone of requirement complete is done, project will go to design phase, wherein we will bring in our architects, designers, senior technical leads who will be based on that requirement documents as input. So now you will see that use case document BRS and SRS, which were listed as an output of the requirement document, becomes input for the design document, wherein our architects and the designers used to design the system. When we say design the system, they will design the architecture, the complete architecture of the project, including the database architecture, including the application architecture, including the technical architecture, including the solution architecture. It's not only creating the architecture, but also working on the high level design document, which will talk about the interfaces between the different components at the application level. Once the high level design document is complete, they would further detail down that high level design into a low level design document, which may have further algorithms at a very minute level in the design. So for example, it may have the definition of interface, all the interfaces to be executed within the project as per the architecture and the HLD documented, or it can also have algorithm at the code level for each class level. So that was the lower level design. So we used to invest some time in that design phase, and it can be, again, depending on the size of the project, it can range from 1 month to 1 year. Then once the design phase is complete, then project will enter into the development phase. So now the output of the requirement phase, which is use case document, BRS and SRS, output of the design phase, which is architecture document, HLD and LLD, becomes input to the development, wherein all the developers in the projects are involved. They understand the requirement from the use case document, BRS and SRS, which was the output of the requirement document. They understand the high level architecture of the application, the overall project, high level design and low level design, which was the output of the design phase, and they start doing the development. So it is absolute clarity about the requirements. It's not changing. So developers is feeling happy about it. So now they will start the development. They know what do they need to do. So design complete is a milestone that we have achieved till now. Then now when development starts, so we'll keep on doing the development of the project, keep on doing the unit testing of the project within the application. When development is marked as complete, when this milestone, because it's a milestone oriented approach or a phase oriented approach. One phase is over, a milestone is complete, requirement complete. The other phase is over, design complete, the other milestone. Third milestone is development complete. When developers is done with all the developments, then we bring in our quality analyst, user acceptance testing, performance testing, regression testing. All this testing and verification starts there. And let's say development, depending on the size of the project, may range between 3 months to 3 years to complete the overall development of the project. Then comes the testing phase. So now in the testing phase, all these verifications are done both at the quality analyst level, both at the user level, the user acceptance testing, and all the kind of different testing, regression testing, performance testing, integration testing. Everything is done to make sure that project is of the quality expected. So once the testing is complete, testing milestone or testing complete milestone is achieved, then we go to deployment, wherein we engage the infrastructure team, deployment team to deploy our project. And of course, this deployment also, basically, we are talking about the deployment on the production system. So once this product is deployed this project is deployed on the production system, it's available for the end user. And now the customer, this is a phase where customer actually starts realizing the value of the project. And then of course, we can soft launch to production or you can full launch to production. There are different strategies for launching a project/product into production. I'll be talking about that in my future lectures. So now once the project is deployed in production, the end user is using the project, then comes the maintenance phase, wherein if there are bugs which are observed, defects which are observed, which can be of severity 1, 2, 3, 4 observed in production, then this team basically, or the production support team, they'll keep on analyzing the bugs, fixing the bugs, and not only fixing the defects. This team is also responsible for taking further enhancements based on the output from the customer. So that's basically waterfall. So summary is requirement phase, and the milestone is requirement complete. Once the dependency is that until requirement phase is completed, design cannot be started. So on the basis of, once the requirement complete, milestone is achieved, design is started, we know all the output from each phases, and we see that how they are tied together and adding the value together. Now let's try to understand further. What are the waterfall model benefits and where can be used? Because till now, whenever we promote agile, we only talk about there are benefits of agile. It's not that waterfall model was bad, but there were basically improvements which would yield a good end result to the customer, or in fact a better end result to the customer. So let's try to observe what they were. So we need to understand, I'm going to talk about what are some of the pros for the waterfall model. So it was a traditional model for development. It is still widely accepted. Most of our IT across the world knows this model, can work very well with this model, and are comfortable with this model. Aligns well with software development lifecycle. So we all have seen that what's a software development lifecycle, and it aligns well. It's easy to understand, implement, and administer because most of us know it. Most of us have experienced it. So there are no new unknowns in this. So everybody feels comfortable, and it's easy to understand because each and every phase is clearly defined. The milestones are clearly defined. The output of each phase is clearly defined. The output of the previous phase becomes input of the next phase, which is clearly defined. So everything is clearly defined. So that's the reason I said clear definition of deliverables and milestones. We know that if requirement phase is complete, deliverables are use case document, SRS, system requirement specification, BRS, business requirement specification. Similarly, let's say if design is complete, what are the clear milestones and the deliverables we have? So we basically know about that completely. It has a clear project objective in the start of the project. It's a clear project objective which is defined that this is a set of complete requirements which we need to achieve by this date, and everything from the project perspective is clearly defined. Serial approach with each well-defined phase. As we have seen that there is no ambiguity. everything is clear that at the end of each phase, what are the milestones, how we'll proceed forward, how it will help us to move forward further. It also helps the project management team because they know upfront the clear definition of the requirements. They can plan better, they can schedule better. You would have seen that Microsoft project plans, which are made based, even if the project is for 3 years, the upfront planning is done because it helps the PMO office to plan and schedule for the project. Easy to design, gather requirements and code. What happens in this is, because as we have seen in the model that I have explained, that everybody has clear direction of what needs to be done for each and every phase, right? So that's where it is easy to define, design, and gather requirements for and the code. Project, or in fact, I'll not even say product. Project definition is stable. We know upfront, what needs to be done. Works well for the projects where requirements are very well understood. I think this kind of model, because we've talked about cons, let's try to understand where the waterfall model can be used, right? So for example, if we are doing a migration project, we know that all the requirements, we know the complete system upfront. There is no ambiguity, nothing can be added. If we are doing a migration project, wherein, now this is an example of that, wherein the waterfall model can be used. We know the requirement upfront, we can have phase gate approach. Of course, agile can be a little better because we'll start producing it. But at the end of the day, if the customer's requirement is that no, until unless complete migration of mainframe to Java is done, nothing can be done in production. So such systems, there are no ambiguous requirements. We have talked about it. Upfront, we know all the requirements. Basically, if you see that, all these points relate to the development team or for the team who is developing the product. So it goes in the favor of the team who is developing the product. There are no ambiguous requirements. Requirements are well known, understood, and technology and architecture. Because in agile, we have heard that architecture is evolving over a period of time, whereas in the waterfall model, the architecture is well defined in the design phase. Design documents are well defined, so it becomes easier for developer to implement that architecture or implement that design. Whereas when we'll talk about agile later, we'll see that architecture and the design is evolving over a period of time. So again, see that it is comfortable for the team implementing the development, but may not be for the customer. Short-lived project, because product lifecycle is, product keep on evolving, and thus the team keeps on evolving. But here the project is well defined, milestones are defined, target dates are defined, cost, schedule, resources are defined. So that's the reason we call it as a short-lived project. Deadline and milestone, you can upfront talk about deadlines, plan for the deadlines and milestone, and team also is aware about what are the milestones coming up. And the resourcing is done upfront. As I've talked about, the PMO, the project management office, plans for everything, which includes cost, resources, schedule. So resources are upfront planned. We know for each phase how ramp up and ramp down of the resources will be done. So basically, it's a less headache, or basically the project management team can upfront define that what information will be done where. Similarly, I've talked about cost. When you plan for the complete project, even if it's for 3 years, the cost can be defined upfront. Now, this goes in favor of the developers, and they can work in parallel if there are a large group of developers. So what we can do is, when there is a clearly defined phase, we can go and implement this phase, because everybody knows the milestones, output, cost, budget, and the schedule. Customers are not adding new requirements to the project often. I have taken an example of the migration project. If you're doing a migration, it's not a product development wherein the new marketplace ideas are coming in, the competitors are doing better, so we keep on evolving the product. It's not the phase. So it can be implemented for those implementations where customers' requirements are not evolving often. Heavy emphasis on preparation. Of course, when we talk about that, let's say we are talking about a project to be executed for next 3 years, heavy emphasis on product preparation from the planning perspective also, because we have to plan upfront for next 3 years. That includes everything, the resources, cost, schedule, budget, everything. And the advantage is that team can be given early access for the environment, for the information, for the resources, so they feel comfortable. Over a period of time, teams keeps on feeling more comfortable when they have a good grasp of the milestones, when they understood, the each and every requirement. Especially in the development phase, developers feel very comfortable about this implementation. Sequence of approach. So if you see that sequencer approach, sequence of steps are defined there. And until unless a milestone is complete, we are not moving forward. Again, comfortability for the development team who is implementing that. Schedule is important, so they stick with this. Most of the time, schedule is met because requirements are frozen. We have phased gate approach. Project planners are working on that. They are monitoring the project over a period of time. So most of the time, schedule is important and is met. And team works to protect schedule because team knows that the cost, it is basically a limited lifetime project, as we have talked about short-lived project. So schedules are important, cost is important, cost budget is important, but most of the times it's met given the requirements are not changing, and team is putting heavy emphasis on the milestones and the approvals. Focus is on well-documented requirements. If you don't have the project scope or the requirements documented upfront, you are not getting into the next phase. So basically, again, comfortable for designers that until requirements are complete, design is not started. Comfortable for developers until design is complete, the development is not starting. And if you see at the end of it, right, requirement is done, design is done, development is done. When it comes to testing phase, you have a lot of team which is available at a disposable to help you with the testing phase. Again, it can ramp up, basically it impact the cost for retaining the team, but that happens, right? Most of the time, till production go live, we keep some portion of each and every team. Be it designers, be it requirement, be it basically business analyst, so they can help during the testing phase. So testing phase, a lot of resources are available to test and validate the product. When quality is more important than cost and schedule, of course, we can bring in quality, built-in quality in Agile also. But in this, because of the phase gate approach, because of the milestone-based approach, because of absolute clarity about the project throughout its implementation, be it 3 years or 5 years, it helps for those projects. Let's talk about, we have seen, what are the benefits or where the waterfall model can be implemented. Now let's talk about what are the constraints of the waterfall model. Lower flexibility. If you're asking your designers to do some changes in the middle of the design phase, they'll be less flexible because requirements are documented. Then they may say that, no, you go ahead and, first change the requirements, get the approval from customer. Similarly in the development phase. And as you go further in the phases, the flexibility or the rigidness becomes more. The flexibility becomes lower. So lower flexibility. Risk and uncertainty, because over a period of 3 years, let's say if a project is being developed in waterfall model for 3 years, over a period of 3 years, what can change? The market demand can change. Competitors have come up with a new product or a new initiative. Anything can change. Hence, the risk and uncertainty increases. It's heavy on documentation, as we have talked about. If you would have seen that in the requirement phase, we're talking about 3 documents, and it can be 100 pages document, use case document, business requirement document, system requirement document, and then architecture document, then high level design document. So basically a lot of documentation. Because why? Because in order to reach to that milestone and get approval for each milestone, each documentation becomes the input for achieving that milestone or get the approval from customer. Lack of transparency, because customer is not aware whatsoever, because he cannot see a working product. When you are basically in the design phase, let's say, or in the development phase, until we reach to a testing phase, that is where some of the customers may be involved as part of the user acceptance testing. So hence lack of transparency. Commitment to schedule, as I said, schedule is met most of the time in the waterfall model. But what is happening? Actual value to the customer, which is when product is deployed in the production, that is after 3 years or whatever is the duration of your overall product, because it's a phase gate approach. As I said, no major focus on achieving the milestone, and which is met most of the time. But basically, the actual value, which is basically getting the product out to customer early, is achieved later in this phase, in this methodology. Assumptions are made upfront because gathering all the requirements about the project upfront becomes difficult. So whatever is not clear, assumptions are made and documented in the documentation so that later it doesn't become a point of concern or disappointment between the two parties. But these assumptions later, pose more risk for the project, because on the basis of these assumptions, complete requirement design development is being done. It's an assumption again that requirements are frozen. If you have asked someone that what do you need 3 years back, and if you ask the same person now, requirements would change, be it personal or professional life. He would want altogether a different word now rather than whatever he would have asked you 3 years back. Even if you would have documented that requirement, even if you would have taken his approval, if you ask him now after 3 years, his requirement might have changed. And then initial information, when you ask your customer to give all the requirements upfront, he would try to give you best possible from his side. Whether it will be accurate or not, nobody can guarantee that. Customer is involved till the requirement phase, but if you see that there is a gap, once the requirements are documented, customers' approval are received, then teams go in their silos. They are working on design, they are working on development until they reach to a user acceptance testing. They're working on silos. Customer is not involved. And if there is a small scope of risk for changing the requirement, the waterfall model is not suitable. Because if you tell developers in the middle of the development that I want these 10 changes, they will not be happy about it. They will ask for go ahead and change the requirement document, go ahead and change the design document. It's a lot of chaos if you are working for a project wherein there is a moderate risk of changing the requirements. Although we say that it's good that project planners, project managers, PMO office, they do their best to estimate everything upfront. But who can estimate for next 3 years? You can, of course, you can give it a best try, but whether it will be 100% accurate, we don't know. So sometimes, as I said, assumptions are not only made in requirements, assumptions are made in design and architecture. Assumptions are made at each and every phases, and these assumptions leads to confusion later. There is no concept of prototyping. Once you have taken the development, you are not doing a POC, proof of concept or prototype, and going back to customer and showing the prototype. You are going ahead with the complete phase, and you are going ahead and presenting. Once the customer get to see the product when it's done, when all the phases are done, when the 3 years are passed, or probably in the user acceptance testing. If you'll have to make changes to code, then developer says, go ahead and make changes to design. If you'll have to make changes to design, then there is a ask that, go ahead and make changes to requirement. So basically it add more difficulty to change anything in the waterfall model. That's the reason we have talked about, why it's not flexible. Again, too much emphasis on approvals that, okay, I've completed my requirement phase. I'll give a walkthrough of requirements. I'll deliver the heavy loaded documents to you and you give me approvals. Consider a phase today. Who reads that 200 pages use case document system? Of course, not the executive leadership. They will assign someone to read that. And of course, you would understand, you have written that document. Who has time and energy to understand each and everything documented in that 200-pager document? And that too, we have 3 such documents. So approvals, heavy emphasis on the approvals, but you would see that if person is not available, if he is taking time to understand those requirements, it causes delays and dependencies. The project is getting tested only when it's basically coming in the testing phase. So we may have done a 1 year of requirement phase, let's say 6 months of design phase, and then 2 years of development. Testing is only done at a developer level. And there is a reason that there are quality analysts who thinks differently. They are involved in the testing phase. So up to later in the game, testing is not getting done. So What may happen is that when you come to the user acceptance testing or the quality analyst testing your application, you may find a lot of understanding problems, which can be caused because of communication gap across all the phases. Because you always have a fear of what if something happens in testing. So you need to maintain your resources, because even if we can always say that requirement phase is done, if you have a heavy loaded business analysts which were there in the requirement phase, of course we ramp down a little bit, but we still maintain just in case if something happens, we'll have to maintain all the resources, which becomes basically expensive for the project. The only other disadvantage for the development team is they always live under fear, either of the deadline or of the milestone or of the approvals. They're dependent too much on that. From the end customer perspective, they get either involved in the business requirement phase, which is the initial phase, or in the user acceptance testing, which is the fourth phase. In between that, there is very less customer involvement, and they don't see any working software until late. When the software is ready, this is what it starts: finger pointing. Because communication gap. If you tell me something in the requirement phase and I tell something to a designer, and designer tells something to developer, and then developer says something to QA, even if you pass a sentence, you say that in their ears, and they try to pass that after one day to everyone, the sentence will change. So hence these requirement communication gap, I would say, will basically build across all these teams or all these phases, and wherein when we start actually test the project, we see that no, this is not we asked for, or I have asked this differently and you have implemented that differently. So finger pointing start, unhappy customer. And if you also see, there are a lot of reports floating. As I have said that no, there are project managers, PMO, which is project management office, involved throughout the project of 3 years. They have planned upfront for the project for 3 years, and they keep on reporting how is the progress of the project going on to their executives. So heavy emphasis on reporting. I mean, there is a set of program managers who are basically monitoring the project, monitoring the schedule, monitoring the cost, monitoring the resources, and producing a lot of reporting to customer as well as to the executive. Return of, in my earlier video, you would have seen that return of investment takes longer. Bug fix is expensive because again, for the bug fix, until unless it goes to testing phase, and if there is a heavy emphasis on changing the design or the architecture to fix that bug phase, so see on the basis of the conversation that I have done till now or the community, so how much effort will it take to change the system? So hence the bug fix is expensive. Not easy to make the changes, push back additional cost for the changes. Let's say that in the user acceptance phase, when customers see your project and he sees that things are implemented differently or understood differently, and he wants to make you a change, what will happen? A change request will be asked. Change request is what? Additional time, cost, or resources. Either one of them or of these three dimensions, time, cost, or resources, or at least two of these dimensions will be asked, that wherein these changes can be accommodated, but we need this. Now that is where it brings unhappiness for the customer from the cost perspective, or schedule is getting delayed, cost is increased. So this will happen because it's not easy to make the changes. Never goes backward. Once you have done the development, and if you want to make changes, it's not that you can quickly go back to requirement, quickly go back to design and change it. It needs a change request. You go back again, analyze the requirement, do your design, and this, so on and so forth. What would happen if in the middle? I have talked about that a little bit in my previous video. But what would happen if the cost budget, let's say the project is 5-year project, if cost budget is not approved, and as we all know that yearly these cost budgets are approved, released. What would happen if there is a crisis? The crisis like COVID that all of us have seen, wherein cost budgets are not approved after year 2. So design is complete, requirement is done, customer has spent a lot of money on this project, but at the end of it, what they have is the output of the requirement phase and the design phase, which is heavy documentation, nothing else, no value. So if cost budget is not approved, there is no value for the customer other than those heavy loaded documentation in their hands. Market changes over the period of time, as we talked about it. Competitors approach, market is changing, things are changing, and you are working on the old requirement which were received 2 years back. You are still developing those, and within 2 years, market has changed. So basically, it's not easy to implement the market changes in the waterfall model. Thanks.